What's up, people? GNR TV, streaming done right. It has all the channels that you would want. You know, the regular channels, channels from out of state, pay-per-views, sports, the movie channels, porn. It has over 2,000 channels in general. Over 2,000 channels. $20 a month for 2 devices now. Not one, but 2 devices for $20, and you get all that amazing stuff. And I know what you're thinking. Oh, there's no sports right now. There's not really many pay-per-views. Well, guess what? There is sports because UFC is back. And there's pay-per-views because guess what? UFC is back, and the rest of the sports will be back eventually, and it's worth it. This app is freaking amazing. I highly, highly, highly recommend it. I've had it for a little over a year now. I'm never going to get rid of it, and I love it. I love it so much. GNR TV, streaming done right. If you don't have it, horror fans. On this podcast, you will hear me and a guest do some movie reviews, random funny horror chats, and whatever else comes to mind. So tune in, kick back, relax, and always remember, I'll see you in your nightmares.
Well, just Jason's mask.
How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another exciting episode of Horror Research 30. Today I have my guest, Kelsey. Kelsey, how's it going?
Hi, I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing good. And both these posters behind me are awesome. We discussed this one a little bit, and you were just telling me how you'd rather do horror movies than any other genre because it's more fun. Can you get more into that?
Yeah. The picture on the right is actually an outtake, and it was we were talking about the set, the way it was built. The director said we need a contortionist, and fortunately, I am a hyper flexible person, and I was able to bend backwards to do that. And then the legs that you see in the movie are actually mannequins because of some restrictions on what they could and couldn't show where they were filming. But I did that insert because I had booked a gig in Nashville, and I've been a lingerie model for a very long time. I do other types of work, but that's kind of what I'm known for. And I even after all this time, I still get nervous. And I thought, I get paid a lot of money when I work in Nashville. If I'm going to blow it, because I don't know if I can be in my underwear in front of, 35 cast members and how many set people, and it just because I've never done that. Mm-hmm. So I happened to see on a Facebook group, they had posted something needing a model type person to do an insert. And I said to myself, okay, well, there we go. If I can do it here in Kansas City, then I can do it in Nashville. And for that movie, when I film, it'll be in Key West, and I think I'm booked at $3,500 a day, which is pretty good money, I would say. I keep asking myself why I went to law school. But I don't make anything when I do horror. So I think there may be some residuals down the line. And that may be different. Like there's a film that's coming, Cruel Midnight, that I'm the lead in, and we'll see what happens with that. But I feel like the horror community is so much more accepting. Like the major motion picture industry is very hard on women and perfection. Mm-hmm. I think I was the only person on that set who hadn't had breast augmentation. There may have been one other person, but I don't think so. Yeah, no, there was one other person, but she was she was much older. She was the brothels, like madam, so she wasn't expected to be scantily clad. Mm. And it was really, to me, it was very intimidating, because I mean, these women were all just, you know, almost, well, they're the women that you see in magazines, and you know, you don't realize, like, I made some very good friends in Nashville, and one lady said to me, you know, when I saw your face, I was like, oh great, I don't want to stand next to her. because I'm sort of known for my, I still model a lot because of my face. And she said a bunch of us knew each other from Nashville, because they used like a Nashville burlesque club to recruit several people. And nobody wanted to stand next to me. And I thought it was maybe because they didn't like me, but it was because they were intimidated by my face. And I was intimidated by how perfect their bodies were. And then, you know, at the end of the day, it turns out that, you know, it's really just the atmosphere of knowing that on the big screen, people are going to pick you apart. And it, you know, not everybody does that. I think a lot of people go to the movies just to enjoy the movies, but the horror community is just super accepting and and they're just very positive. They're very much ahead of the times as far as accepting different standards of beauty. I think now that's a very mainstream movement. Like I overheard in CVS the other day, or Walgreens, you know, something about, we have decided to not Photoshop our models, blah, 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 natural beauty. So it's obviously become something that is very mainstream. But when I started working as a model in the 90s, you didn't have digital film, so you could delete your oopses. You were burning film if you were screwing up, and you really did have to be almost perfect, because almost no one was using Photoshop at that time. And there was a lot of pressure. I mean, not for me so much. I remember I did a runway show when I was, I think, 19 or 20. And I'm actually only 5'3", but I was the only one small enough to be able to wear at least 3 of the outfits, because you had to have an 18-inch waist or smaller. So I've always been really tiny, but I'm not tall. So, you know, I don't look super skinny. And I'm a mother now, so I'm not anywhere close to that tiny. If I was, that would be weird. Like, I don't think you're done growing at 19, but I don't think it bothered me as much as it bothered a lot of people, because petite models are not standard sizes anyway. But the horror community is just, I mean, they love the women that are on screen. They're not looking for the girls to be a size 0 with breast implants and Botox. They're just looking for someone who is clearly into their performance and having a good, like, doing their best to, you know, scream and bleed. And I think the last short I did, I vomited green slime on myself and my victim. So, which was actually powdered sugar with green food coloring, and I had a camera over my shoulder, so that was the angle, and they would kind of spoon it into my mouth, and I'd have to hold as much of it as I could, and then action, and I just and this powdered sugar mix with green food coloring would be all down my chest, and it was, I don't think I'll ever be able to eat powdered sugar again, because it was back to one. And oh my God, never again. So, but it's fun, you know, and I never go to a horror set thinking, you know, I should have been starving myself for the past week, or what are the other actresses going to think of me, or is somebody not going to want to shoot with me because I have a disability and I frequently have to take prednisone, which is a steroid. And anybody who's had to take prednisone knows that if you're on it for a week, you're going to gain 10 pounds. It is a very difficult thing to have to take as someone who is in the entertainment industry. And I never worry, like, if I had to take prednisone the week before and maybe I'm a little heavier than I normally am, I never worry about somebody saying, oh, well, what happened to Kelsey? She doesn't look good. That's just not the reaction that you get from horror fans. It's more, well, there's Kelsey, yay. Like, no matter what I look like, which is really nice. I wish that the rest of the entertainment industry was like that, because I think I know so many people who can't look in the mirror because their nose gets photoshopped every time they shoot, or part of their body is changed that they don't like, and it's written into their contracts. So the person that they see in the mirror is not the person that you see in pictures. And they don't ever see themselves as just natural. And it becomes very difficult for them to like what they see in the mirror. And I kind of have the opposite written into, if I have a contract that has clauses about what they can and cannot fix, I want to look like myself. I don't want young girls out there thinking that I don't have pores. You know, like that's just ridiculous. There's no, my face is almost perfectly symmetrical. There is absolutely no reason to alter me to such a point that I'm unrecognizable, and it is beyond what any person could achieve as far as like symmetry. And I just think that's so unhealthy for I mean, I remember what it was like to be 16 and reading 17 or whatever magazine, and thinking, you know, well, I kind of look like that because I was so skinny, but I'm really short. You know, or what about like this, you know, I've got kind of a bony nose, or, you know, it's just, I really do wish that the way that horror fans are about actors and actresses, I so wish that was the attitude across the entire industry, because I just think it's so positive, and I think it would be really great for just, you know, normal people to see that, you know, beauty is everywhere. It isn't computer generated. It's more about what's on the inside. And I think that that's something that the horror community has been way ahead of the curve on.
I agree with you on that. I mean, as far as the way horror is with the community, like with podcasting, and then with just people I've talked to, other horror, okay, so I'll say podcasting. I'm cool with a lot of other podcasters, and it's not about like I'm at the point now that I get guests on my show, and we'll switch, like I'll email them I'll email the other people or, send them a message like, hey, I just had this person on my show. If you want them on your show, I can give you their email and you can reach out or whatever the case may be. So it's not like, it's not a competition. It's more about helping each other.
Right. It's a very much the more the merrier.
Yeah.
And that's something that I like. I mean, the horror director that I have worked with is Todd Sheets, and he's sort of legendary in that genre, the gore genre, which I didn't know because I didn't watch movies like that before. And I have contacts with the independent film channel KC division here, and they had sort of treated a lot of Todd's work like it was lesser, and there had been some acts of maybe sabotage, and so when I found out about that, I went to one of the founding members who I have a very good relationship with. I used to own and curate an art gallery in the Crossroads in Kansas City, and I'd shown his work. And I said, look, I don't care if you don't like him. You're going to support me because I've been supportive of you. Mm-hmm. And this is what's been happening to this director. And honestly, he's probably the most successful, like as far as his films being seen by the most people. He is one of, if not the most successful person. And you guys kind of treat him as an outcast. And here's the thing, I know all of you people because I just know everybody. I'm just very friendly. I grew up in a small town in Minnesota, and I'm like la la la. I just couldn't, everybody's a friend until they prove otherwise is kind of the way I treat people. And I said I'm disappointed in you guys for acting like this. It makes me sad because I'm very much the more the merrier kind of person. And I went to a guy who teaches film and other things at a local community college who had me on his show called Cracked Eggs as just a local person who's of interest to a lot of people, and interviewed me about my life and some projects that I had going, and he had me on there twice. And I got a hold of him and I said, look, my horror director, his generator got returned to him blown, like it won't work. His lights are all messed up. Is there anything you can do? And turned out the department was just getting rid of some stuff. So he actually gifted a lot of equipment or just priced it at, almost nothing. So Extreme Entertainment could replace equipment that had been damaged or just not returned. And Todd was like, who are you? And I was like, well, there's a reason my nickname is the Fairy Godmother. So, and it really is. I'm known to a lot of people as the Fairy Godmother, and it's not because I bully anybody into anything. It's just because, if you need something done and you're in a tight spot, I'm a good person to call, and I will do everything in my power to help you. And it kind of puts me in the position of being able to help other people. I like to use those favors not for myself, but for other people who need them. So it's been a nice experience to be able to, help Extreme Entertainment be, if not more accepted and supported, at least not negatively spoken about, at least on my watch. because if I find out there's any more of this BS going on, then I'm going to go to one of the founders of IFCKC, and you're going to be blackballed. And it's not because I'm a mean person, but there is absolutely no reason that we all can't get along. And if one person is successful in a town like Kansas City, then that just looks better for the rest of us. Kansas City is a great town to film in. They have tax incentives. Your insurance is lower. There's a ton of places to film. I mean, if you posted on Facebook that you wanted extras, like, you would be staffed immediately. And we are getting more and more people filming here, but, you know, in order for that to be successful, my point was, you know, you don't get to judge somebody because you don't like the type of work that they do. We all have to be supportive of each other here. And I have had some success in, you know, you may not like blood and gore, but you like me. And I have done some favors for people, and you know, I consider you guys my friends, and I need your support. And that's been a very good way to, you know, make that possible. So, I don't, you know, it's weird. I think you either like horror and you love it, or you don't. And it's,
Definitely.
and I'm, like, I don't actually, I'll tell you a secret. I don't like to be scared. Like, I really hate, like, I won't go through the haunted houses in Kansas City because I don't like it when things jump out at me. And actually, when I did that outtake, the picture you have on the right, I was so glad I had spoken to the actor that was in the demon makeup before, because when he came out in full makeup, I was like, oh no, no, because there were a whole lot of teeth and claws and very scary, and he was going to be close to my belly, and I was like, if I hadn't known who was in that makeup, I don't think I could have done it because it was so scary.
Yeah, but like you were saying, the horror is a really, really like welcoming community as far as like the podcasters, with the indie horror scene, with people that are from the directors to the actors, actresses, the camera people, you know, the people who do the lights. And then when you go to the horror conventions as well, like the other fans are very nice, very welcoming. The celebrities there are very nice, very welcoming. The staff there, it's like when you walk in.
I've been very surprised by, I mean, there is a script out there that's in production that I'm the lead role in, but just the little bit of work I've done in the horror community, that's been enough for people to know who I am, to seek me out, to send me messages and say, you know, I love that, you know, 30 seconds I saw you on film, or good job. And that's, you know, for somebody who's been modeling for more than 20 years, the difference is, I mean, I've been very lucky as a model. I don't get a lot of people who troll me or say bad things about me. There's really not much that you can say about me. Like, I'm such a nice person that just nobody believes anything nasty about me. But there is a lot of that. You know, I see a lot of girls that just get, who, you know, I know them, and they're 19 years old. It doesn't get much more perfect, and they just get torn apart by trolls. It's awful. I don't understand. Like, okay, if you don't like the way that person looks, then don't look. You don't have to be mean about it, right? Well, the horror community, I don't think I've ever seen anybody just, I mean, of course you get your Rotten Tomatoes ratings and whatnot, and maybe somebody's being, but it's never directed like at an actress. Like, it's never like, oh, so-and-so is not thin enough, or so-and-so, you know, is too old, or you never see anything like that. And I just love that. I wish more young girls were seeing, like, how many people out there can just really love what you do and who you are.
Yeah, no, you got a point. Like, that's, horror is just one of those things where it's like, it seems funny and it seems strange on the outside looking in, because it's like, you have, like, I've met some of the most friendly people in the world in the horror community that are just horror fans of the movies, and we watch some of the craziest, bloodiest, violent things, but it's like, we're very nice. We're very nice.
Yeah, you're very nice people and just very supportive. If you've got something going on in your life and you put it on social media, your horror fans are going to be the first people that, you know, we're here. Is there anything we can do? You know, whereas mainstream, it's crickets. Or where somebody may send you that lovely random dick pic. You know, does that make you feel better? No. And you never get stuff like, or I don't ever have anything like that from the horror community. It's always very respectful, very supportive, just very generous-hearted messages of support. So that's kind of wonderful, I think.
Yeah, horror is freaking awesome. Besides it being my favorite genre, like movie-wise, my favorite is the bloody, gory slasher stuff, of course.
Right, the grindhouse, yeah. And
but,
I mean, it's fun to do. Like after you get used to it, the fake blood, like that. The picture on the right, I jokingly called it the Tinder date gone awry, because I was being eaten by a demon, but a mannequin's legs were wrapped around his shoulder. So, you know, the implication was, of course, kind of pretty sexual, but, you know, like what was supposed to be my intestines were sliding over me, and the blood and you know, and it was just, I thought I'd be like kind of grossed out, and I wasn't at all. It was fun. It was, once I remembered that the guy in makeup, Alex, like was a really nice guy, and he really, all those teeth were not going to be sunk into me. Because, I mean, the other thing about horror effects, I mean, the makeup and what they do on a shoestring budget is just absolutely incredible. It really is.
And one thing I love about the indie community. I know it's done on a shoestring budget, but like they have to do more than say a big production movie, because you have to tell more of a story, or just have something that really stands out more than like a Hollywood budget, because you only have this small budget.
And man, they make it work. I mean, I just did High Death. I played a demonic hooker, which, you know, I mean, that was fun. And I had actually, my victim, I was a guest for the show Drive-In Movie Maniacs. Terrible Tim Sweeten, his paramour, and I was wearing a snowflake corset with thigh-high boots and a bullwhip and a Santa hat. And they actually got picked up for national syndication, so you can see me like, Merry Christmas, there I am being a dominatrix. But they do kind of the B Hollywood movies from the 80s, sort of like a Mystery Science Theater. And that's filmed here in Kansas City. And they knew, I had no idea who they were. They contacted me and asked me to be a guest. And it was great. Again, you know, similar, just Dreaming Purple Neon hadn't even come out yet, but they saw like some stills, and they'd heard that, you know, I wasn't a diva to work with, because, you know, a lot of women who look like me and who are models can be kind of snotty and kind of, you know, demanding, whereas I'm like, I cut my teeth in an era where the model wasn't the star. She was the low man on the totem pole. And, you know, you could get fired like immediately. It wasn't all about, you know, the model. It was about the photographer and the job. So I'm very accommodating. I work very hard to give, if I'm doing a guest spot, if I'm starring in something, if I'm doing an advertisement for somebody who makes corsets, whatever it is, I give it 100%. And I mean, even just doing Drive-In Movie Maniacs, I met some people that are in the professional wrestling arena, and they have some movie contacts with, like, I don't know if you remember, like the Toxic Avenger films.
Yep.
So those people who I met through Drive-In Movie Maniacs, I have actually appeared as a valet for some professional wrestling things, and I've been in talks with them to do like a small guest spot in one of the next, because they're still making movies, make an appearance as myself in one of their films for that company. So it's not only very accepting with the fans, but it's just, you know, if you're a beautiful woman who's not a jerk face, people want to work with you, and they're very excited to meet you, and I mean, they treated me at Drive-In Movie Maniacs like I was a big deal, and I was like, wow, this is don't treat me like this, because it makes me nervous. First of all, like I'm not, even if I was a big deal, I would never request anything special. I just want to hang out, make friends, and experience things. But you know, it was very flattering to be like, you know, we're huge fans, and we don't have a budget, but would you be willing to be one of our guest stars? It would be a big deal for us, because we're trying to get on national syndication, and your face is one of them that's known outside of Kansas City to some degree. And I was like, it is? I mean, I know that it is, but it's weird to hear someone say that, because I just don't think of myself that way. And well, of course, you know, anything I can do to, you know, make a fellow entertainment person stand out, and especially if you guys are fans and you like what I'm doing, then absolutely, I'd love to help out. And that stems from working with Todd Sheets and Extreme Entertainment. They just heard I was good to work with, and it transferred into something else for me. So that's been really nice.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
Now, as far as like what you've done so far in horror, do you have a favorite role you've done, or do you like them all about the same?
You know, so far I think I like them. I actually, Dreaming Purple Neon, the insert that I did was, so it's like, I don't know, like 15 seconds, 20 seconds that you see me on film. I didn't have any idea what I was supposed to be doing. Just show up and get eaten by a demon, like, you know, go with it. Mm-hmm. So I went and got on YouTube and looked at some old, like, Italian, like, silent horror films, and watched how gracefully those ladies were, you know, molested by Nosferatu. You know, it was very, very, you know, swoon. And so I thought, you know, I'm going to go with that. You know, just to be different. And if the director doesn't like it, I'm sure he'll tell me, you know, because they generally do. And I just, you can kind of see by the way my arm is, I'm sort of very, you know, swooning, and I kind of thought maybe I was doing something wrong, because it was just dead quiet. And he kept filming and filming and filming. And when he finally said cut, he said that was amazing. That was just like one of those classic Italian horror movies, Damsel in Distress. And I said, well, that's exactly what I was going for, because I didn't want to walk on set like just completely unprepared, because that's a good way for me to freeze and, you know, just lay there. Yeah. I mean, I've never done that, but my theory is if I'm not prepared, like, that's probably what would happen. So I was really, to hear him say, you know, I've had this script, Cruel Midnight, in my head for the last 20 years, and I finally met the actress to do it. He kicked that script out in less than 2 months, and it's in pre-production now. He wanted me to appear in a few more things before we film it. But I've got contacts at South by Southwest. I have corporate backers who, anything I do, they're going to back if I ask them to. I'm like, Todd, you do realize that you met someone who can wave a magic wand, and you will have probably a bigger budget than you've ever had, just because I asked for some support, and you know, I'm pretty sure I can get a slot at South by Southwest just because I know people. And he was like, who are you? Once again. And I was like, well, I mean, you know, people trust me to be supportive and do good work. And if I think it's crap, I'm not going to say, hey, you know, can you help me out? I only publicly support things and ask for other people to support them if I believe in them. It's not, you know, if I think that somebody's not doing good work or they're sabotaging another company or something like that, I absolutely will not come out in support of someone like that. But, you know, I just am somebody who knows a lot of different people and can help people out making things happen. So I'm excited to do Cruel Midnight because I'm actually disabled, which people don't know when they look at me, but I spent a lot of time in the hospital. They told me I would not see my next birthday 5 years ago. I have a Juris Doctorate from KU Law, and I used to work for one of the world's largest law firms, and I worked a lot of really long hours, and I just couldn't anymore because my illness won't let me do it. And I went back to modeling to keep myself from going crazy, like stuck at home. But that movie is even written around my disability. Like if I was having a bad stretch where I was spending, you know, a week out of every 3 in the hospital, like I did for a 2-year stretch there, the actress whose body I take over would have more film time. Whereas if I'm doing well and my illness isn't kicking my ass, then I will come out of her body sooner. So it is actually written in such a way that it accommodates my disability. And I have never heard of anything that is so ableist, I guess, is a word that is gaining traction as a very big deal for people with disabilities. I didn't know that there could be somebody who cared so much and wanted me to be in their film so bad while being okay that they would write a role that worked with my disability. And I think only in the horror community would that happen.
Yeah, horror is, like I said earlier, horror is something else. It's such an amazing thing to be a part of. Just me as being a podcaster, it's awesome to be a part of, and it's awesome to just talk to other fans. Because at the end of the day, I feel if you're in the movies or not, you're still a fan of the movies. You're a fan of the genre, and it's just amazing how everything kind of just clicks together with horror. Like there's plenty of movies out there that not everybody likes. There's some movies out there, you know, horror movies that some people might hate. But I like how, as far as like the argument go, not necessarily an argument, I'll say like a debate about a certain movie that you may not like or someone else likes or loves. It's more of a debate instead of like an argument, instead of like, oh, well, you're stupid for liking this movie. Now you might do it as a joke, especially amongst friends, of course.
Right. You have horrible taste.
Yeah, but like that. But it's not to the point of like bashing somebody's intelligence because they like a certain movie.
Which is something that I think, because of the divisiveness in the current political climate, that has transferred across the board to almost everything. Civil discourse is almost non-existent in every arena. Like, if you don't agree with me politically, religiously, what I like movie-wise, you know, block. I mean, there is no like, hey, you know, what do you like about that movie? Or, you know, I don't like what you have to say about this politician, but you're still my friend. And it's, you know, oh, you're a Trump supporter, you're a horrible person, or you're a liberal, so you're an idiot. You know, I mean,
yeah.
Horror is still, at least there's still a safe zone there where people still can talk to each other respectfully. And I really hope that Americans especially remember that we're all on the same team at some point soon. Because at least in the horror community, there is still that, you know, we are all on the same team for the most part. And I just really hope that someday soon, other people remember that we're all on the same team, because right now they don't. That's really sad to me. Just, you know, as a group of people, Americans, we have the resources and the numbers to do great things on whatever we decide to do.
Mm-hmm.
But divide and conquer, and it's really easy to make us all sheep and do what we want, whatever you want to us. So it gives me hope that there are still little pockets of people that remember. We may not agree, but we are all on the same team, and that we do still like the same movies, and we can still watch a movie together on Friday night, just maybe not that one that you don't like or that I don't like. And that gives me hope too. I really, there are so many things about the horror community that I just think, gosh, I really wish other people would act like this. Because I think the world would be a nicer place, and not so scary and sad. But I'm really grateful to have been included in such a big family worldwide.
Yeah, it's crazy how it is. Like, because again, with me, and I'll say this real quick because I got to kind of wrap this one up. I got another show to prepare for, like right after this. But with me, like, I started this show now 2.5 years ago, and it started out with just me, friends, and family, just sitting down how we are now, and like we were just like reviewing horror movies, discussing horror movies, and I went from that to I would be in other horror groups, like other horror groups on Facebook, and just kind of reach out to people just to come on and review movies. And I went from that to actually getting actors and actresses and directors on for interviews, and I think it's just cool. And now I'm even at the point where I have people like actors, actresses, and directors, and other horror fans as well, but mainly actors, actresses, and directors, which will send me an email over because of they either heard of my show or heard my show or heard like what I do for indie horror, which I promote indie horror as much as I can. I'll have the people come on here, let them promote their movies. And now that I have a green screen, I do stuff like this in the background, showing their stuff off. And like, I do it all just because I have such a passion for horror. Like, I love it so much. I enjoy it. I've been watching it since I was between 5 and 7 years old. I've been watching it, and I just grew to love it more and more. My wife and I will go to horror conventions together. My brother will go with us at times. And that's
awesome, and I think that I absolutely believe it. Like, if it was any other genre, I'd say, how in the world did you manage to get an actor to come on your show, or anything like that? But in the horror community, again, I just wish the rest of the world would act like this. I really do.
I agree. I mean, with everything, you do have your few bad apples, which is, I mean, that's just
of course. There's always going to be somebody who's got to, be the contrary voice, But I almost feel bad for that person, because I think, wow, like, that person has to be so unhappy in their own life that the only outlet that they have is to tear people apart who can't retaliate against them or shut them down because they hide behind the internet. And, I mean, of course, people like beauty, owning an art gallery, being a model, being in film. I mean, everybody has a different perception. I was very good at selling art because I could tell, like, when somebody was looking at a piece and there'd be like this like sharp intake of breath, and whatever some memory or experience was triggered by the piece that they were looking at, and it meant a lot to them. And that, that right there is when you know that a piece of art has connected with someone on a very important level. And I think that that's true of any art form. And, so as long as I showed work in my art gallery that I hated, but it was well executed. And I was always able to sell pieces because I knew how to market things. But, I always told my artists, you may have somebody come in who is showing off to their friends, like, oh, I know so much about art and blah, blah, blah. Maybe they're going to tear up your favorite piece. If that happens, I'm going to try to move you away from them. But realistically, like, people who go into any art form with an open heart and an open mind, because they are looking, they have a positive outlook, that is what they're going to take away. But when somebody is like all balled up and like angry and has an axe to grind, it doesn't matter how good the work is. It doesn't matter like how agreeable it is or even disagreeable it is. They are going to find a reason to hate it and vocalize that, because that's all they can do. And those are the people that I wish I knew where they lived, not because I want to go break their kneecaps, but because I just want to gather them up in my arms and tell them it's okay. And what can we do to make, like, why is your heart broken? Like, what's going on with you? Because to me, that's just so sad that what you have in your life is to sit there and just hate everything. You know, just write nasty reviews under how many different pen names. And, you know, I mean, it takes a lot of time and energy to really hate something or someone.
It really,
like, I mean, really, it really does. It takes a heavy level of commitment. and if your heart and mind is that poisoned by something, like, I just want to go knock on their door and like give them a lap dance or something. And like, you know, like, what can we do to like make your life better? Because that just makes me sad. I don't see hatred and anger. I see broken, jagged edges in somebody's heart and mind. And it can be hurtful when it's directed at you, but I try to remind myself that it's not ever been directed at me. It's usually directed at people I care about. But, I try to just say, you know, those are the people in the world who, they really just need a hug. I mean, honestly, they do. It's just, they don't have anything positive to say because there's nothing positive in their own life. And that's just so sad to me.
Yeah, it is. It is a part, but it's one of those things. I guess it's a part of life. I feel some people do it for attention, especially with like negative comments and negative reviews, only for
just like children. Well, negative attention seeking. You know, I mean, they figure out like if mom and dad or mom doesn't pay attention unless they're like breaking stuff. You know, that's what they're going to do to get attention. You know, you have to positive reinforcement. And I guess I've had one or two maybe naysayers about me, and I've just directly approached them, and that was over like with the modeling side, and said, you know, hey, would you like to meet me in person and maybe talk to me, get to know me a little bit? You don't have to like what I do. I'm not going to be beautiful to every person in the world. I mean, I get that. Like, that's okay. Models almost always have unusual features because we look different than like your everyday person, and those features that are kind of standout features can be beautiful, or they can maybe not be to some people. Like, you know, but like the people that I have approached and said, you know, it's totally okay that you don't like what I do, but I feel like the way that you wrote about me indicated somebody that really had a lot going on in their life, and I just wanted to ask if you were okay. And the 3 people that I've done that with have actually like broke down in tears, and you know, one of them had gone through a job loss, another one was going through a divorce, and I think the third person had just never been able to get a date. So like, and like really just was mad at females in general. And to have a female reach out to him and be like, are you okay? Like, you can write bad things about me all day long, but, you know, the way that was written, it struck me as a wounded person. And they don't write bad things about anybody anymore. You know, but that's all it took was for them to stop doing it, was somebody to reach out and say, hey, write what you want, but are you okay?
That's good. No, that's good though. I mean, some people do need that. Some people are just trolls, as we all know. They just do it just to get attention. And for me personally, as far as like, well, I don't get a lot of comments on my videos as far as my YouTube stuff yet or my podcasting stuff, but I haven't gotten anything negative. And if I did, honestly, I would just ignore it because I know that they just want you to respond. And I'm like,
right. Well, and the other, you know, there is always my grandmother used to tell me that, you know, if you're not getting nipped from behind, at least once in a while, you're not out front. And the alternative is the view never changes. So, you know, if you're standing out and that makes you a target to, you know, occasionally get nipped, that's kind of a little bit of almost a badge of honor. Like you've gotten enough attention where you have trolls, you know. Because you know, you're right about, you know, them wanting attention. If you're not big enough for them to, you know, get attention by saying something negative, well, then they're probably not going to notice you. I've had one or two somebody put me on the dirty once, which was quite shocking because I'd never had anything like that. Never had anyone say anything bad about me. And, you know, the photographer who took the picture, they didn't even bother to clip out his watermark. And they'd accused me of sleeping with my photographers. And the photographer was like, my wife and kids were at that photo shoot. You know, and she's never been anything but professional. She's a friend of the family. Like, you know, that's a copyright infringement, take it down. And they wouldn't because it's the dirty, but then Anonymous crashed it and then it was back up and now it's down again. But it really did upset me because, you know, it was completely fabricated. But, you know, at the same time, I was like, well, I guess I've gotten somebody's attention, you know, because if you Google me, what's that?
No, I was saying one way or another with stuff like that, you do get people's attention, and I just like I'm at the age at the part in my life, and I guess you could say the age where I'm just like I don't care.
Right. You just don't care. I mean, like if you Google me, there's been a lot of articles about me because I'm kind of known as sort of a sex symbol, but I have a pretty significant disability, and I'm very ill. I'm considered terminally ill. But, you know, so I absolutely break every stereotype. I have people on my Facebook page that are, you know, kind of stars and bars, woo, type people, and they'll use the word cripple. And I'm like, well, you know, since I'm your screensaver, you should know I'm a cripple. You know, and it's something that shocks them to pieces. But, yeah, no, I'm absolutely disabled, and I'm absolutely, you know, not what people see as somebody who's very sick and that there is no cure for what's my genetic disorder. But that is part of the reason at my age that I do still model and work in film and put it out there. I've got a runway show that I'm doing, and I don't do runway because it costs me too much as far as pain goes. And then nobody's ever said I could use my cane. And runway's hard. Like, my worst fear is falling off the edge into the photography pit because you're kind of blinded by flash bulbs. And I had done what I thought was my last runway show a couple of years ago. And runway models make very little money. Print models tend to make quite a bit more. And you're not in pain for 4 days and bedridden afterwards. So, you know, for me, that's obviously the choice. But I said, okay, you want me to wear a chainmail bikini will you let me use my cane? And, you know, there was some discussion, and the answer was yes. I am doing my last runway show with a cane because as much as I hate doing runway and as much as it costs me in pain, I'm going to do it and be someone that does walk that catwalk using a cane, to try to, you know, open that door for people like me who whose bodies are coming apart, and show them that, you know, just because you're different and maybe you need a little assistance keeping your balance, especially in 5-inch stilettos, that it's okay. And that, you know, you can still be sexy, you can still be beautiful, you can still be, you know, an international sex symbol. People ask me that all the time. What's it like to be, you know, somebody's fantasy, but also be handicapped? And I'd say, well, I don't really think of myself as either of those things. I just think of myself as me. But I'm glad that because I'm different, you know, maybe there are more people. I get letters from other sick women or disabled women all the time who say, you know, because I saw you in this, or I saw you in an ad, or your Facebook page, I went and had my hair done, or I put makeup on for the first time, or, you know, I showed my husband that we have the same disease, and, you know, you're an underwear model, and it makes me feel good because these women see that just because they're ill doesn't mean that they're not women anymore. And that's very important to me, that I leave that mark on this world.
That's good, though. That's good. You gotta. I feel we're all gonna leave some sort of mark. Hopefully, everybody leaves a positive mark.
Yeah, no kidding. Some of us are going to leave bad marks, but you know.
Oh, yeah. But I guess those you can learn from.
That's true. That's true.
It's one way of looking at it. But I guess we can kind of wrap this one up because, like I said, I gotta get ready for another show. But it was
very nice talking to you, and thank you so much for the invite. I love it. I'm very happy to do the show, and anytime you'd like to chat again, let me know.
I definitely will. And just
okay.
Thank you again. Stay there for like 2 minutes though.
Okay.
And I'm just gonna hit stop really quick.